We appreciate the visa upon arrival, but it must go beyond that. We don't need visas in Africa.
So what is the African Tourism Board doing?
When they come to invest in Africa, it has to be to the benefit of our nation.
What does your Africa looks like?
We Africans, we don't realize the power that we have. We don't realize what we have in our disposal.
Hello everyone, how are you guys doing? This is My Africa Show and I am Tsega Belay. Today we'll be talking about something very powerful that we human beings can use to explore and know ourselves. And I'll be having a very nice time about it, which is tourism, by the way, guys, just to let you know, with my guest who is a former vice president of United Nations World Tourism Organization and also a former board member of United Nations World Tourism Organization, also the president and executive chairman of African Tourism Board, Managing Director of Cruella Fleet Management, and also Managing Director of Golden Feathers Boutique Lounge. He's in the business, he's in that tourism sector. So we'll be talking about this powerful topic, tourism. Hello, sir, how are you?
Thank you so much. The pleasure is all mine. I'm so excited to explore and indulge with your entity so that we can explore great opportunities that prevail in our motherland, Africa.
Yes. So we have met a few years back when African Tourism Board was signing with African Union. And that moment was the moment that I understood that there was a lot of things that we could do. And lately, countries like Kenya, Rwanda are opening their borders and letting Africans come without any visa restrictions, which is such a good news. So let's start our show with this amazing news. So what is it about? Any updates about it?
We are excited, but we're still sentimental, especially in terms of celebration, because this is a process that is long overdue. Long overdue. It has to be. Look, when you look at the 20 member states, we have so far tried to erase the visa regimes, but not fully, because we still have other member states that still require visas to visit these very same member states. So out of 20 countries, out of 54 member states, you're looking at only 20 who have at least made inroads to see how best they can position their destination. So a lot needs to be done. And yes, I still remember very well when we had a conversation during our signing ceremony at the African Union, where our task is to say, how do we expedite the process? How do we start making sure that member states, they realize their potential so that they can dismantle these barriers? Visa regimes are a challenge. I have actually indicated that to your minister when I came to Ethiopia, where, of course, we appreciate the visa upon arrival, but it must go beyond that. We don't need visas in Africa. So these are the things that we need really to start implementing across. And I trust that other member states will be able to pollinate some of these good initiatives that, of course, Kenya has come on board to say, look, let's see how best we can erase as a starter, as the beginning of a journey where ultimately we want to see an overall of these visa regimes.
Exactly. And I feel like this is a very good start because Africa is huge. There are different cultures, different traditions, different backgrounds, different problems to solve. So I feel like this is a huge step which we should all recognize and somehow celebrate, which I totally agree with what you have said. Let's talk about African Free Trade Area, which I feel like most people don't understand how powerful that free trade area can be, especially when we see the resource that we have as an Africans. So what is being done, especially when we talk about the free trade area? Tourism will be related with that, because when people move to buy and sell, they will see places. They are being a tourist to that country that they're going to. So let's talk about that.
Yes, when you talk about the intra-Africa trade, it's first we need to erase the visa regimes. How do we start trading amongst ourselves when we still have these barriers? We cannot. It just still remains a myth. So as African Tourism Board, in conjunction with the African Union, our emphasis, yes, we need to start to appreciate trade amongst ourselves. Remember, we have so much to explore. We have so much, to pollinate from one another as member states. And using tourism as one of the tools that will drive our agendas, that will drive our economies, that will drive and bring it to fulfillment all the agenda items that the African Union has actually stipulated. So we are saying, let's appreciate the free trade area. Let's start to appreciate one another. You cannot trade with another member states if you don't appreciate them. So it's one of the tools where we'd say, look, can we try to dismantle the dependency syndrome, where we think that, well, look, trading with America, trading with China, it's much more better than trading with Nigeria, trading with Senegal. Also, we are saying the barriers that we have. Have you realized that instead of, in order for the intra-Africa trade to explode, it's more expensive.
That is so true.
Yes, taking goods from Ethiopia to South Africa, than taking the goods from South Africa to China. And that has been deliberately motivated by those who still have the power in terms of economy. Africa, we celebrate our independence, but when it comes to economy, we still have a few who have power in our economies. Economies are in the hands of the white minorities, and most of them, they're in Asia, most of them, they're in the United Kingdom. So we are saying, until we realize our worth as Africans, until we say enough is enough. Imagine a situation where we have so much at our disposal, but our people, they're living in poverty. It's something where really we need us to take a stand and say enough, it's enough. And then once we realize that, we'll be able to realize the need for us to start trading among us ourselves. So hence we are saying, yes, as much as we appreciate the initiative from other member states, we have realized a need to do away with these visa regimes. We need to do more. We need to take a stand. And we need to support and pollinate those who are doing extremely well in making sure that our communities, they benefit with what we have at our disposal.
When we talk about traveling all across Africa, the expense and also the information that people have is very, very narrow. People don't know what kind of benefits or what kind of business they can start in different parts of Africa. There's no, I can say that the awareness is very little, that people don't understand the news and the change that each African countries are making for Africans. So my next question would be, I feel like the mindset that we have towards this specific issue is really stagnated, that it is making us pay. So what is the African Tourism Board doing in enhancing and promoting tourism all across Africa, and most importantly, for that information to be distributed to the nation, to the people?
As African Tourism Board, our objective and our aim is to position Africa as a leading tourist destination by strategically integrating tourism development and marketing efforts. We need to tell a good story, and over and above, we emphasize on collaborations within the key source markets worldwide to show the continent's diverse attractions, our cultures that we so much proud ourselves of, and our natural beauty. We need to tell a good story as Africans in Africa. Can you guess what?
Mm-hmm.
Almost 60–70% of our visitors, they come from Asia. They come from abroad, simply because they've realized that Africa is a key destination, both in terms of tourism and also in terms of investment. If Africa was so bad, downwards, and uncivilized a continent, we wouldn't be actually receiving such a massive of visitors coming from abroad. It is so sad that we Africans, we don't realize the power that we have. We don't realize what we have in our disposal in terms of investment. I have always argued that, look, we don't have to go out and seek for investors in Europe. These guys, they are flocking, Chinese, they are flocking to Africa because
Exactly.
they know the power that Africa has, the
And
minerals that Africa has, the beauty that we have. Why can't we start looking within? Why can't we start now having dialogues across the continent to say if there was a time for Africa to come together, it is now. So that ultimately, at the end of the day, you need to have a situation where I don't have to go to Dubai for shopping. We have, I mean, South Africa, there's so much opportunities. What you get in Dubai, that's what you get in most of these member states. So we need to start to tell our story. We need to start to expose what we have as a continent among us ourselves. I still believe that charity should begin at home. Let's make sure that especially our educational system should change so that we start to educate and program our young ones so that they start to appreciate being in Africa. Instead of me, after completing my graduation, thinking of going to Australia, I need to start focusing on saying, I need to go to Ethiopia. I need to go to Nigeria. I need to go to Tanzania so that we build the Africa that we want to see.
that is absolutely true. I cannot agree even more. I want to talk about this idea because I feel like nowadays things are changing within seconds, and people are understanding that it's idea that turns into money, that turns into business. And we are seeing a lot of African-based products, African-based companies that are being opened here in Africa, which is a very big change, big step, I can say. So how can the tourism, because when someone goes to a new place as a tourist, they might see some gaps in the economy and they might think about investing. So how can we use that? For example, is there any news, any updates that countries are bringing out to all those tourists that are coming from Africa in terms of the economy?
As African Tourism Board, we seek to create a positive image of Africa and attract travelers and investors within Africa. Just a few weeks ago, we had the opportunity of actually being in South Sudan. Guess what? Infrastructure development, those are opportunities that are there. I have always even argued here in South Africa, you do have conglomerate organization coming from abroad to come and build our own infrastructures in Africa. Do you want to tell me that we don't have capable organizations who can come and build roads in Africa, who can come and build airports in Africa, who can come and build our own stadiums in Africa? Infrastructure development, that's a massive opportunity across all member states. These are opportunities that can be explored by Africans in Africa, but here we are. We let these organizations from other regions to come and exploit Africa and explore opportunities that are supposed to be enjoyed by ourselves. So as African Tourism Board, our plea, what we have done, we're running a number of initiatives. where we are saying, Africa, it is time to unveil the curtain now. It's time to open the curtain within ourselves and amongst ourselves. We need to be able to protect that we have. So there are quite a lot of opportunities. When you talk about the tourism sector as well, it's one sector that needs a lot of reformations. When you talk about, especially within the tourism space, the hotels, most of these big hotels, they are not Africans. They are hotels that come from somewhere else. Don't we have Africans who can build their own empires? So we are saying it is time that we stand together, especially the public sector and the private sector, to say how best can we build our own empires? How best can we transform and reform the tourism sector so that it benefits our own population in Africa? So that is our plea as the African Tourism Board, to say, it is time that we need to stand. And in many cases, we have cases where we also involved in other investment programs out of Africa. Our message to the investors is to say, look, Africa is not an isolated island. We live within the ambits of the global community. We need each other, but we don't want a situation where we take an advantage of people. They come and exploit Africa. So fundamental, when you come to invest in Africa, it has to be to the benefit of the populace. We have that issues where, e.g., the Chinese community, they come in here, they build massive stadiums, they build embassies, and guess what? Bricklayers coming from China. That is an insult to our African populace. So we need, when they come to invest in Africa, it has to be to the benefit of our nation, to the benefit of our continent, and to the benefit of our communities. So together we can build an empire within Africa and across the globe as well. So that's our emphasis as the African Tourism Board, to say, let us stand together. We have always argued with the African Union to say, we cannot sit and celebrate and talk about the Agenda 2063. It is not fair to you guys, to our forefathers who came up with this brilliant idea. And most of us, this generation, we weren't even there to see the fulfillment of those agenda items. We need to make sure that they are implemented now, not tomorrow. So it's time for us to stand up. And also within the media fraternity, I think it's your responsibility. You are at the forefront of exposing on what Africa is all about, the beauties and what we have in Africa. So the honors is up to us to collaborate, join hands, and see how best we can synergize.
I feel like tourism should be part of our lifestyle. We should be able to understand that, understanding my brothers, my sisters, understanding myself one way or another. And as an Africans, we're all connected. We came from a different background, but we're all connected as a human being and also as an origin of being an African. So I know we can talk a lot of things. There's a lot of wisdom that we can share for you, especially related with the tourism, because I believe you're an expert in that particular session. But as we're concluding this show, and I feel like you have traveled all across the globe, also here in Africa, and you have for sure have your own experience that you share, that you feel as an African, that you might be able to share it with us. So my last question is, if you have anything to add, you can add in between, but also share us your form of Africa. What does your Africa looks like?
Africa is a half-opened can full of jewels that needs to be explored, that needs to be wide opened so that you can enjoy what is in the jar. That's all about Africa. Yes, there is no member state that does not have its own challenges. We all have challenges, But what we need to do, we need to focus on the brighter side. When we focus on the brighter side, it actually overshadows all the negative sentiments. I strongly believe if Africa was so bad, we wouldn't be actually experiencing the influx of tourists in Africa. They are flocking to Africa because this is a heaven on itself. From Cape to Cairo, the combination, what we have complementing one another, it's Eden in itself. So what I have actually traveled across member states and with challenges, that's why I indicated that within the challenges that we do have massive opportunities. Roads, infrastructure, we need ourselves, we need organization within the African context to come and explore those opportunities. Our diversity in culture, that surpasses, I've always said and argued that there is no continent that can surpass what Africa has to offer, the beauty that we have. So Africa, we have it all. And as African Tourism Board, our task is to showcase the continent's rich culture, our heritage, our breathtaking natural scenery. That's what Africa is all about. If there was a time for nations, break the divides that has separated us, break the mentality that has been instilled in us, and see our worthy as Africans and stop living under the shadow of any other continent. This is the time where we need to stand together and say, how best can we move as a bloc, pollinate from other nations? What is it that they're doing best? Rwanda, in terms of conferences, in terms of mice. Let's learn to pollinate. Let's learn to work together and move away from the competitive attitude that we see being reflected in most of the member states, and work as a team. We complement one another and we need one another. So therefore, we are saying the dismantling of some of these obstacles that were actually imposed upon us by our colonizers, and we are proudly holding on them. We need to dismantle them and expose the Africa and build the Africa that we want to see tomorrow, that will be enjoyed by our generation and the generations to come.
Thank you so much for staying with us, for answering our question, for sharing your experience. It really means a lot.
Thank you so much. The honor and the pleasure is all mine. Media fraternity, you must do a good job. Tell the world about Africa. We need not wait for CNN to tell our story. As Africans, we need to tell our own story.
So guys, as we're concluding our today's My Africa show, what I would love to say is let's be able to create a healthy interdependency among each other as human beings. And let's understand that borders are just lines, our history, our backgrounds, or the narratives that we have heard till today is just something that might not be even able to define us as a human being. So let's understand the resource, the power that we have, and let's be a reflection of our Africa. That's what I would love to say. Thank you so much for staying with us, and I'll see you next week on our time. Till then, goodbye.